Uh, all right. I am back though. All right. Anyways, so we're gonna be reviewing Dean Withers on Jubilee Surrounded. I watched this, I guess, probably 2 weeks ago. I guess at this point, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of go over some of the rhetorical tactics here. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. If I had to grade Dean here, I'd probably give him a C. Um, I don't think it was the best. I don't think it was the worst either. I think he has a lot of room to grow. I don't want to sound too like pessimistic about him, but you know, he gets glazed a lot, which I mean he should. I mean he's in the arena. We need more people like him. But I think there are some areas where there can be some improvement. But he's a young guy. He's got a long career ahead of him. I'm sure he'll get better. I recently watched some clips of Parker. I always think of like Parker and Deem kind of in the same grouping, like the kind of Gen Z TikTok debaters. And I was actually pretty impressed with Parker. Again, there's room for improvement. I'm sure Parker will hone his skills over time. But to be completely honest with you, I think Parker is a little bit better rhetorically than Dean is at this point, at least to a general audience. I think Dean is good. There's room for improvement. I think Dean appeals a lot to the kind of progressive or liberal person that browses on TikTok. And that's great. But I think sometimes liberals, progressives can watch him and think like, oh, he did so good. He really showed these MAGA people or whatever, and use him as like a model for their own rhetorical talking points, I guess. And it's one of those situations where you're kind of preaching to the choir, where what works for you and your group, you might think really convincing to you, but not necessarily catered well to a more general audience. Now, all of that to say, like, that sounds very negative as a preamble to start this video off. Overall, he did pretty good. Overall, he is pretty good. Overall, he's a very positive force in the space. So I don't mean to sound too nitpicky, but I do think it's a good opportunity to kind of point out where I think there's some room for improvement or better ways to kind of talk about things. So without further ado, let's jump into it. This is Dean Withers on Surrounded.
I think that we need strong alpha
Oh, hold on a second here.
males like Donald J. Trump.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. The audio from the is kind of finicky. So I'm gonna switch over to my headset. I don't like my headset because, you know, it's big, it's bulky, it messes up my beautiful hair. I like to use my earbuds because they're low profile, they're a little bit easier. But I don't know why, for whatever reason, I've been having issues with syncing between my earbuds and my computer. It could just be that my computer is still running Windows 11. Maybe the drivers are out of date or something. I don't really know. But anyways, let me switch over to the headphones real fast. Hold on, give me a second. There we go. Okay.
Spencer Pratt.
There we go. Okay, cool.
Charlie Kirk.
Did you just
Honestly,
unironically say strong?
No offense to this girl or anything, but she sounds like Minnie Mouse or something. It's kind of wild. She, you know, if politics doesn't work out, she can go into voice work. She could be like an anime character. That's how anime girls talk. Oh, kawaii desu.
Alpha males?
we have laws in favor of women getting leadership roles. We're taking opportunities away from men. You are oppressed
you just
more than me.
Men are men, and men have testosterone, and men love.
I love when people say that, like they made an amazing point. Apples are apples. A phone is a phone. Men are men, women are women. Yeah, no shit, motherfucker. The question is, you know, you're defining the term using the own. It's a circular argument. the question is like, what is a man, right? What is a woman, Matt Walsh, right? What is a man? What is a woman? And man and woman is going to come down to like neurology. It's going to come down to what's going on in the brain, not as much as what's going on between the legs. That's sex. But yeah, they repeat it like they make some like slam dunk, like, oh, men are men. Wow. Thank you. I don't know anybody who's disputing that. The question is, what exactly is a man? What exactly is a woman? That's the real question.
Love beautiful women, and trust me, I would prefer
I feel you, Dean.
that actually looks at women and is sexually attracted to women.
Dude,
They had to make things up.
Why? Like, why is that a prerequisite? Like, do you prefer that your father is attracted to you? What does it matter? But amazing screenshot, by the way. But like, does every man need to express some kind of sexual attraction to you or other women in order for them, like, for you to prefer them being around? Like, why does that matter? It's weird. Obviously, it's just a cope. It's just excuses for Donald Trump.
Up to get Trump. Trump doesn't have to be a such.
This is peak Mar-a-Lago syndrome right here. I do like her jacket though. Okay, that's pretty fly. I like that jacket. I would wear that.
Any woman would love to be with Trump.
all right, listen, put your hand up.
Any woman would love to be with Trump. That right there is true Trump derangement syndrome, where it's when it's not enough for you to just, I like him for his policies or I support him electorally, but actually, this, any woman would want to be with this. That's Trump derangement syndrome right there. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's an old guy. You don't expect old people to be, super duper attractive or anything. But like, come on, let's get real here. This isn't an attractive person. This is someone who's, he's a little bit past his prime, so to speak. He's been left on the grill a little bit too long.
If you would have sex with Donald Trump,
One of the things about conservatism, especially in the United States, I don't know if this is the case in other countries, is the patriotism they have is like incredibly insecure, where a lot of it's just kind of like virtue signaling. The like Americana it's an aesthetic, it's a virtue signal. It's like, oh, I'm wearing the colors, oh, I have the glasses on, oh, I chant USA, 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 so therefore, like, I love the country, I'm a patriot and everything. And it's like, well, no, not really. That's like the most shallow, most ingenuine, most insecure form of patriotism. Real, genuine patriotism isn't just cheerleading. It isn't just wearing a flag around all the time. It's actually embracing the values of freedom, constitutional government, separation of powers, so on and so forth, right? And that's why a lot of times, like, conservatives will say, like, oh, if you don't like the country here, leave, anytime somebody criticizes it. And it's like, well, something to consider, by the way, and this is a good talking point for you to have in your back pocket. Criticism of the government, dissent, is baked right into the Constitution. The amendment process itself is an admission by the Founding Fathers that the values of the United States include the idea that the United States is not perfect. Otherwise, we wouldn't need an amendment process. The amendment process itself is an admission that there's room for improvement. The amendment process itself is an admission that there are going to be things that people complain about that are legitimate and require changing the Constitution in order to make it better. The Constitution also has a line about, maybe is it the Constitution? Yeah, it is the Constitution, right? Or maybe it's the Declaration of Independence. No, it's the First Amendment, right? Redress of grievances, to petition the government for redress of grievances. And petition, they're not giving you the full, I don't know why my internet's kind of running slow today. I'll have to check that. But yeah, so right here, right? It's a line that I think people don't often remember or talk about. So, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion, that's separation of church and state. When people say, like, oh, this is a Christian country, you hear a lot of conservatives today saying that there shouldn't be a separation of church and state. It's right there in the First Amendment. I don't know what to tell you. This is the very First Amendment to the Constitution. They're just lying. or prohibition of the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people to peacefully assemble. So that's protesting. And to petition the government for a redress of grievances. What does that mean? That means one of the very first rights that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, that's what we call the Bill of Rights, is the acknowledgement that our system of government, our foundational values of our government, are that you have the right to petition the government, meaning try to change laws, try to ask for things to change, try to make your case to the legislatures or whatever it may be, for a redress of grievances. Grievances is, if you don't like something, if you think something is wrong, the idea that if you don't like something, if you have a criticism or a complaint in the United States that you should leave is un-American. Patriotism, true patriotism that's beyond just waving a flag around, is understanding these values, and the value of the foundational principles of our government includes the idea that we have freedom of speech. Why? So that we can express criticisms, so that we can try to change the government for the better. That's why we have amendments. That's why the founders very explicitly and clearly said we have a right to petition the government for grievances that we have. Anyways. USA.
Has Donald Trump been a good president for women, or has America moved backward from expanding women's rights to debating how far those rights should go? I'm John Regalado, and from Jubilee Media, this is Surrounded, where one brave soul faces a room full of disagreeers. Today, we are diving into what feminism means on both sides of the aisle, abortion rights, and President Trump's record. I'm here with our featured guest, progressive commentator, Dean Withers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know. That just seems so corny.
This will be fun.
All right, are you all ready to debate Dean? Yeah! All right, let's get into it.
The ironic thing, the funny thing is, like, feminism is the only reason that these women have a voice in politics in the first place. It was not normal for women to have, like, the position. It wasn't even, it wasn't societally accepted for women to hold positions of power in government, for women to have their voice, like, very broadly expressed within our political discourse. But then you get, like, conservative commentator women who are not stay-at-home mothers complaining about feminism and saying that, women have gone too far, I guess.
Dean Withers, I'm a 21-year-old liberal. I do political debate for a living, and today I'm surrounded by 20 Trump supporters again.
Did you say he's 21?
They're all women.
By the way, I have a really interesting story about Jubilee, but I don't think I can tell you guys about it. So one of these days, okay, remind me, someday I'll tell you.
My first surrounded claim is, men aren't better at leading than women.
If you would like to debate this claim...
So interesting little factoid is, I think there's some research on this that said that women tend to be better at middle management positions. And that might sound controversial, but it actually kind of makes sense when you think about it. Some of the morphological differences that define, whether you're a man or a woman, which, by the way, like, if you're a trans person, you actually have kind of like your neural morphological differences are kind of a little bit more like the opposite sex, is how it works. But part of those morphological differences is that women tend to have, like, a more developed, I don't know what the actual region of the brain is called. I don't remember off the top of my head. See, my brain's not working well, but it's the region of the brain associated with interpersonal communication. When people talk about how it seems like men don't really pay attention as much, they're not picking up on all the same cues, like that's legitimate. That's an actual thing. And so if you think about it, if women are really good with those interpersonal communication skills, in middle management positions, that's a benefit, because what does management do? Management facilitates a bunch of people in a team being able to work together. And so if you have somebody who's really good at interpersonal skills, that gives them a leg up in that regard. So that's not to say, by the way, that, men aren't good leaders or that there aren't good roles for male leaders in society. Obviously, there are great male leaders throughout history. It's just to say that, like, this common talking point that women aren't good leaders, like, it's just not true,
And please get to the chair in 3, 2...
I'll tell you this. the vast majority of wars and conflicts that have gone on throughout world history have been mostly by men, right?
2, 1.
Good to see you again.
Oh, this
Welcome
lady.
back, Lori. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How
What
are you?
happened to her arm?
Phenomenal. So the first claim is that men are not better at leading than women. And I'm honestly appalled that you as a woman would disagree. But I mean, if you want to start it off by telling us why you do think men are better at leading than women, the mic is all yours.
Well, how I would like to start this off is I'd like you to define what a woman is.
Well, sure. I think that the definition of what a woman is ultimately irrelevant to this debate.
Okay. See, this is where I'm talking about where I think there is room for improvement. Liberals absolutely have to stop running away from that question. It does not make you look good. A general public is going to look at you. It's going to look cowardly. It's going to look like, you know, when the right tries to frame it as, oh, liberals have radical ideas around gender and stuff like that. You have to have an answer to that question. You look like you're dodging. You look like you're not confident in your position. This is simple. I made this point. I made it earlier. Man and woman, these are gender terms. It has to do with neurology. It has to do with what's going on in the brain. Your sex, male and female genitalia. I had a whole video on like transgender topics where I went over like the science regarding this. If you take a trans person, biologically, it's not just a social construct. I used to think that biologically you can observe differences in like their brain patterns and, you know, like the morphological differences. So in other words, the anatomy, there, you know, differences between the typical man and woman brain. And so a trans person, if they're born like biologically male, right? If you look at their brain patterns, what you're going to see is that despite them being male, genitalia, right? Their brain exhibits patterns and morphological differences that resemble the opposite sex. The development of the genitalia and the brain are not like, they're not 100% interlinked. There's a whole thing about like in the womb, in utero, different developmental stages, the exposure to testosterone and androgen, right? But like we should be able to make that point. What is a man? What is a woman? Well, a woman is somebody who has the morphological characteristics of a feminized, you know, brain, basically.
No, it's not.
I'm willing to pre-assume your definition of
I don't know what's going on here. Is this a Gen Z thing? Is this when you get like a little like pimple or something? Is that what that's all about? I feel like I've seen that before.
what a woman is, i.e. an adult human female. See, if I were to give you my definition of what a woman is, an adult human individual.
I will say though, I do like the line when people say like, "Oh, what is a woman? A woman's someone who covers their drink when you're next to them or something like that." It's cheeky, it's funny, but you do have to have a real answer to that question.
That pertains to the social and cultural characteristics typical that of a female sex indexed to their gender identity. Well, then all of a sudden we're going to be speaking past one another because.
And that's not the worst definition of a woman, but like I don't know, the way he ran through it, it just comes off as very not verbose, but the terminology is it just comes off a little bit too academic in the sense that you're like talking over the audience. You need to kind of put it in terms that are a little bit more kind of ground level.
We define the word woman differently.
Exactly.
So I'm more than happy to pre-assume your definition.
In the first place is kind of silly because you don't know what a woman is.
Well, I just told you what my definition of the word woman is. You just simply
I
overlooked
think it would also depend on what leadership role that person would take. For instance, if you wanted Kamala Harris, who you voted for, to be the president of the United States, we have a problem with that, and I'll tell you why. It's not necessarily the woman, but it is necessarily foreign countries, for instance, the Middle East. If I go to a Middle...
Who cares? Why do you want the... this argument has always been kind of stupid to me because it's like, what gives the United States the respect and power that it has? The economic dominance that we have, the geopolitical alliances and structures that we've, propped up to create the U.S. Western hegemony. I feel like I'm pronouncing that wrong. The military might that we have, the idea that a woman's going to come into office and then the Middle Eastern countries are going to attack us? No, they're not. That's fucking stupid. We still have the geopolitical clout. We still have the military dominance. It's not like Donald Trump's going out there with his fat ass and fighting wars by himself and going toe to toe with people. Like, please give me a break. That's not how it works.
Middle East country, as a woman, I can't show my hair.
And all their criticisms about the Middle East and about Muslim culture and everything like that, I don't share those, but I'm just saying the way that conservatives talk about it, for them to use that as the standard, like why the fuck would we care about what a culture that is backwards on women's rights think? We're not trying to be like them. We're trying to be better than them. You know, if they talk about Western civilization, well, then be Western, act Western. Stop acting like you're from the Middle East.
At risk of being stoned.
Why are we talking about Middle Eastern countries when the prompt is men are not better at
Because you're
leading than
asking
women?
about leading. You voted for Kamala Harris. I think she would have been a horrible leader. Foreign countries don't always see women as respectful as they see a man. A woman leading this country, for instance, when you go to doing foreign policy and all of those things, they would not have.
And like we have a lot of countries that do have women leaders. Like, for example, Mexico has a woman leader. There's a variety of other countries that have. I mean, think about it for a second. Mexico, which still has like a very machismo culture, like they're not going to be as progressive as the United States, and even they have a woman leader. Like what they're expressing on the conservative side in the United States is just peak insecurity.
Have the respect that a man would. I can also say as a woman, depending on your age, if I've got PMS, honey, I'm going to make different decisions than I would as if I didn't.
I kind of feel like people over-exaggerate this. Now, I'm not a woman. I don't know what it feels like to have, you know, cycles of whatever. But I feel like people way over-exaggerate this. I feel like the differences that you have in mood and everything, I don't think they're that significant. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they're that significant.
Going through menopause, I might have hot flashes or whatever else.
Jesus
I
Christ.
believe as a Christian woman, men are supposed to lead. We're supposed to help.
And see, here's the real reason. Everything else is like bullshit to kind of backfill the conclusion that you already have. But the reality is like, this is the real reason why they believe that. They're kind of raised from a young age to think that it's part of their culture, part of their religion, that they have to treat men as like higher on the totem pole.
And I'm totally comfortable with that.
Okay, well, thank you, Lori. So the first thing that I point out
That's a good response.
Position that may be foreign.
Sometimes you have to learn how to just be kind of dismissive when somebody makes a stupid point. You can oversell their position, make their position sound stronger than it is by being like, oh, no, actually, sometimes you just got to go like, okay, that's stupid, but okay.
Countries wouldn't respect a female president as much as a male president, I don't think is represented through the fact that on the global stage, Harris had a significantly higher approval rating than Trump during the election. And there's a reason for that.
Because she would have been a pushover. They would have walked right over her.
And that's exactly why she had significantly better policy, better character,
No,
would have been a better president for America.
Not at all.
But ultimately, once again, Lori,
failure.
the topic of debate is not, was Harris a better option for the president than Trump? Because even if we want to look at women and men on this macroscopic level.
I will say, though, I don't know why this particular debate topic was picked. It seems very odd to me. Like, I don't know what point Dean was intending to make here. I don't know. It seems very odd. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what angle he's trying to go with here.
Even if it was true, Harris was a clown and Trump was awesome, that still wouldn't mean that generally speaking, men are better at leading than women. The last point that you made there was...
And like when you pick a question like this as a topic, you have to come prepared to debate this position, right? And I myself wouldn't even know. I mean, if I had to, I'd figure it out, right? But I wouldn't even know where to begin with trying to defend this position, because it just seems very amorphous and abstract. Like, there's probably not going to be a lot of great data on this question, on this topic. Again, and that's not to say I don't believe this. I genuinely believe that women make decent leaders in most positions. A lot of my best managers when I was working have been like women managers, women supervisors. I had no problem with them. I thought they did a good job. But that's different from me actually having to debate the position. I don't know how you substantiate the position one way or the other. Like, even if you wanted to hold the position of, oh, men are better leaders than women, I don't like, if I actually believe that, and I wouldn't even know how to actually make that position either, because I don't know if there's really like good research and data on that point, on that topic. It kind of seems more of like just kind of a predisposition, feelings-based topic, cultural thing.
Massey, and I think that you're like indicating that women are more emotional than men on average.
They are, 100%.
Then tell me why men commit 92% of violent crimes. Tell me why they're more likely.
This is a good argument.
Suicide. So you think that
yeah, testosterone causes what? Emotions. Testosterone will amplify your response to certain emotional triggers. Saying, oh, well, it's testosterone. Oh, there's a biological reason for it. Yeah, no shit. Yeah, your emotions come from your biology. It doesn't mean that they're not emotions. They still are.
Testosterone is what makes men more emotional.
Absolutely.
Okay, well then you just conceded the debate.
No, I didn't concede.
She did.
Absolutely men are more emotional than five.
Do you think she like just genuinely was not intelligent enough to follow that line of logic?
You're saying that women were more emotional than men.
And that's kind of like somewhat of a red herring, because what I'm trying to say to you, women are.
He has the same response that I do. I don't think she knows what a red herring is. And to be specific, what a red herring is like logic terminology. A red herring is a distraction from the point. That's what it means. I like to think of it as like, pretend you're having like a debate with people, you're having a whatever, and then a red herring just flies through the middle of your group or whatever while you're having the conversation. Oh shit, did you guys see that red herring? You know what I mean? Like, it's a distraction. That's what it is. It's a weird word that we use, but you could just think of it that it's just a distraction away from the main topic, the main point.
More emotional. They just are in more of a.
They just are. It's just known.
My mind depending on my mood.
Here's the killer argument for all these women here. If you think women are not good leaders, if you think women are too emotional to make decisions and everything, then why the fuck are you here? Why should I listen to you? Why should anyone listen to you? If I'm the man on the other side of the table and this is your position, then shouldn't you just listen to what I say? It's a stupid position to hold. They don't genuinely actually believe this.
Now you're bringing in anger, you're bringing in violence, you're bringing in.
Is anger an emotion?
It is, but to a different extent. And honestly, if you've got a man that's violent, out of character alone, I don't want him leading the country.
Yeah, that's why I voted for.
But like, this goes without saying, they support a lot of like very violent, like predisposed individuals to run government.
Oh yeah, you want to get into that? I know that's another problem, but I'm happy to get into that.
I guess we
he
could
was
get into
never
that on
accused, never accused of.
Okay, we got it.
Okay, it's one thing to say he was never convicted in a criminal court. It's another thing to say he was never accused. He was absolutely accused. Whether or not that was adjudicated in a court and then he was found guilty is another story, but he's been accused by like dozens of women at this point.
We got to pause there. You've been.
Another an interesting thing too, I don't want to get too far off track here, but in the E. Jean Carroll case, I believe there's like deposition. There's deposition, I think you can find videos of it where he's essentially admitting to doing it. But like people still pretend like it. Yeah, whatever.
Voted out.
Okay.
Return to your seat.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Lori.
If you would like to be the next.
And when I say he admitted it, I'm not saying like, oh, I, Donald J. Trump, raped that woman. I mean, like, he admits the behavior that he was accused of, going short of saying literally that, oh, yeah, I raped a woman. But he's basically describing the behavior.
Next debater, please get to the chair. In 3, 2, 1.
Oh, God. That's hella not fair. You guys saw that, right? That's one other thing about this whole surrounded thing is that it's ableist. It's terrible.
Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
I'm going to give the mic to you. Why don't you tell us all why men are better at leading than women?
Men are better at leading because as a woman, I can tell you that we're emotionally manipulated very easy.
I mean, if you believe that, do you think maybe all the positions that you hold politically are caused by the emotional manipulation? You know what I mean? Like, what the hell?
We tend to be compassionate because we.
By the way, guys,
and getting
if you like my content, please like and subscribe.
Why? Because we deal with babies.
So, women
deal with
babies,
yeah.
Therefore,
I'm glad you caught that. That doesn't make any logical sense. Logically, this is what you would call a non sequitur. What a non sequitur is when the conclusion does not follow from the premise. So usually when you form a logical structure of reasoning, you have like premise, however many premises you have that lead to a conclusion, right? And the conclusion, deductively, the conclusion would necessarily follow from the premises. Inductively, you have basically premises that are like lending credence to the conclusion, but it doesn't like necessarily follow. But like when she says women are more emotional because you have babies, like what is the connection there? What is the logic there? That's a non sequitur. The conclusion that women are more emotional because they have babies, premise, they have babies, therefore they're more emotional. Like, what's the logical connection there? I don't get it.
Women.
Like, now, if you wanted to say like, oh, women have babies, and due to them having babies, like there's certain like emotional, or not emotional, but there's certain like hormonal, not triggers, like there's hormonal like your body's going to produce more hormones during different like cycles, or when you're having a baby, like that would be one thing. That wouldn't be a non sequitur. There you're actually laying out like a logical chain that leads to the conclusion. But like she didn't even do that. She just, because they have babies, they're more emotional. Okay.
Can be manipulated. I don't think that argument follows. But once again,
can be easily manipulated.
Women can be easily manipulated.
And convinced, yeah.
What's the argument for
manipulated?
It's inherent in us.
Okay, just say.
It's inherent in us. Everybody knows. It just is. Trust me, bro.
Saying that it's inherent is like me saying that what is actually inherent of women is that they can't be easily manipulated. That doesn't give me any substance to underpin your position when you just simply underpin your position by saying, well...
Okay, so this is kind of where Dean struggles a little bit. He's talking in a very academic vernacular. And like, I appreciate, he's probably an educated dude. I think he has his degree. I don't know for sure, but whatever. And that's useful, certainly useful for him being able to kind of like break down logically what's going on. But then you have to be able to take that, like your ability to kind of interpret things at that like high academic level, but then like translate it to like vernacular that normal people can engage with. Sometimes he talks a little bit like a kid that's fresh out of college. And not only does the audience not necessarily follow that vernacular, but an audience might also just kind of perceive it as kind of like uppity, kind of like pretentious, you know what I mean? And like that's not necessarily like a fair impression that people have, but if you're a public speaker, you don't really get fair. You get the audience that is what it is, and you have to meet the audience where they're at.
It's inherent, and it doesn't push this dialogue forward. I would say,
yeah, I agree with that.
Men are probably
See your
easier
comment,
to
Gabby.
emotionally manipulate than women, or else they wouldn't be culpable for 92% of violent crimes. We could emotionally manipulate a man by making him lose a game of Fortnite. The next thing we know, there's 3 holes in his walls. All right, same thing.
This is a good argument. I like this line of argument.
Suicide's a really bad thing, but it is true that men are significantly more likely to kill themselves than women on average. Same thing with drunk driving, gambling. And then when we look at women, they actually perform better in the fields that are less indicative of emotional outbursts, such as performing well in school. And I mean, this is all underpinned by biology. There was a study done by
See, now these are really good arguments. I like these arguments.
On by a female compared to a male in the operating.
You're giving like very concrete examples. You're explaining in a way that is like easy to follow for the average person, right? If men are so much more emotionally regulated than women, why do they have a higher suicide rate? Why do they have so many like angry outbursts? Why do they engage in so much risky, violent behavior? Why are women, why do they tend to perform better like in school? Now, saying they perform better in school doesn't necessarily mean that, they're more emotionally regulated, but there's probably a correlation there, right?
Room at a hospital, that you're less likely to die or to experience any post-negative operative outcomes. Why? Because women are biologically designed.
I think the real issue actually is not that there might be some small marginal difference in like the emotional, I don't know, ups and downs that men and women have. I don't know one way or the other. I really don't know. Whatever those differences are, I think we over exaggerate them. It's like it's like, I don't know if the bigotry of small differences is the right terminology here, but when you're really close to something, you tend to kind of overemphasize things. Like sometimes I think about it like when you look at animals, you look at like a cat, for example, or a bunch of cats, and they kind of all look the same. And sometimes you think to yourself, like, do cats think they all look the same? Or do they notice like the small differences in like their facial dimensions and stuff in ways that we don't? We notice differences between human beings to an exaggerated degree because we're so close to it, right? But I think the real issue, I don't think whatever differences there are in the emotional ups and downs between men and women, I think the real thing that makes the real true difference is how do you handle those emotional ups and downs? And I think that men, especially in the modern era, are not dealing with those emotional ups and downs that they have in a healthy way. Whereas I see women living healthier lives in terms of like socializing, taking care of their health, eating appropriately, exercising, going to therapy, right? So even if women even if we were to say, let's just grant for the sake of argument, that women biologically are predisposed to more ups and downs, it's being mitigated by the fact that women are doing more to actually address those ups and downs. Men, however, in our current era, tend to just kind of build up a lot of the stress, a lot of the depression that they have, not seek help, not socialize as much, go down rabbit holes of like extremism, right? And even if, again, if we were to say for the sake of argument that men are inherently predisposed to have like a more even-keeled emotional disposition, environmentally, they are dysregulating that by not appropriately dealing with the emotions that they do have. And when I say that, it's not to shit on men, by the way. Sometimes I'll talk about it. Maybe I do a stream at one point talking about it more in depth, is that men in the current day, they need help. They need like serious kind of answers to some of the issues that they have. And one of the big things is there needs to be an admission of the emotional world that men experience. Because the first step to addressing a problem is always going to be admitting it. And then talking about having a robust conversation about like, how can we actually get men to a healthier place? That's probably going to involve therapy. Therapy can only get you so far. You know, getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise. Probably the biggest thing these days is not going outside and touching grass enough. Men are way too much like in their own world, on social media, on their computer, streaming in front of audiences like a fucking weirdo, and not dealing with their emotions properly, not going out there and venting to friends, not going out there and socializing and realizing the entire world isn't out there to get them and that most people are pretty decent. It's easy to get very stressed and radicalized when you self-isolate.
To deal with stress and pain better than men because they have thicker dendrites in their brain. So ultimately, the science and the empirical facts completely reject.
This could be true. I don't really know about it. That's an interesting thing. I'll have to kind of look into that in the future.
Conclusions that you formed.
Not at all. Men are more rational and
there.
women.
You've been voted out by the majority, so please return to your seat.
I love when they do that. You just gave me a bunch of like facts and stats and everything, but I'm just going to repeat what I said earlier. I'm not even going to address it. I'm not going to counter any of the arguments that you made. I'm just going to repeat what I said. You know what? I've never really looked at Jubilee's setup here. Where are they at? It almost looks like they're in a parking garage.
If you want to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Okay. I'm glad they let Granny actually make her way up to the chair.
Annette Davis Jackson.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, yes.
So let's hear it. Why do you think that men are better at leading than women?
How about I know that men lead better than women? Because women have the babies, you're emotional, but more important, I have a dad. I have a dad.
It's the same stupid argument the other person made. Like she didn't even learn from the other person to maybe come up with something better. She just repeats like, well, women are more emotional because they have babies. They're more emotional because I know that. Okay, but you got to give me an actual reason why logically you think that's the case.
And it was very strong. And when I see what President Trump is embodying, I say, and I know that you can roll your eyes, but you know what my grandmother used to say, you can roll your cotton balls, but you sure can't shoot them. So men.
What does that mean? I'm not even saying that expression is like a bad expression or anything, but I don't get it. You can roll your cotton balls, but you can't shoot them? Is it like you can roll your eyes at me, but you're not affecting me because you're not shooting them? I don't know.
Men are strong just like Trump because in the first 100 days, what did he do? He started writing executive orders.
Yeah. He
started writing executive orders day after day after day after day.
What does it have to do with him being emotional or not? Am I crazy? Am I having like a schizo attack now? Is my brain melting? What the hell's going on?
Women would probably say, hey, let me take a break. That's why.
Jesus Christ.
Okay.
Well, listen.
By the way, a lot of his executive orders are just kind of written for him. The whole Project 2025 team, like they put together like all these executive orders that they wanted him to put into place. So, yeah, I mean, you could see him on video. They just kind of hand it to him and he's just, oh, what am I signing? And then he signs it or whatever. And one thing that you have to realize about Trump and Trumpism, Trump supporters, is I think sometimes we look at Donald Trump as the problem when the real problem is everything surrounding him. Jubilee surrounded. Donald Trump doesn't care about politics. I mean, he cares about politics. Donald Trump doesn't have a political ideology. He's not actually committed to some grander vision of the world that he cares about. He knows that if he does what the base of the Republican Party wants him to do, the base of the Republican Party will support him. It's a transactional relationship. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about, honestly, he probably doesn't give a single shit about culture war issues, but he knows that his base does. And so you can look at, sometimes people will look at like, oh, Donald Trump's just signing executive orders. He doesn't even know what's in them. Well, they don't care. It doesn't matter to them, because at the end of the day, they know that like, okay, the Project 2025 team is doing what conservatives want them to do, what they've been wanting to do for a long time. They don't care that he genuinely believes it. They just care that he does it.
Clearly, I disagree with you about Trump, but that's actually not relevant to my counter argument. I'll tell you why. Because even if Trump was a good leader, that doesn't mean that therefore men are better at leading than women on average. Like, for instance, in the same way that you could give an anecdote of a man that you think is good at leading to justify the claim that men are better at leading than women, well, I could just give an anecdote of the opposite. Hitler was a man. He was a terrible leader. Therefore, men are...
Okay, I was going to say, like, I get his argument, but it'd be a little bit harder for a general audience to grasp onto it without giving a counterexample. But I'm glad that he did. And this is a really good counterexample, right? I would even frame it as a question to her. Like, okay, if you're saying that, you know, because you found one example, you believe Trump is a good leader, therefore, you know, whatever, men are better at leading, whatever. Do you think that Hitler was a better leader then? Like force her to actually have to own that kind of contradiction to her logical structure.
Are worse at leading than women, all right? But clearly that's not how it works, because we cannot attempt to allow an anecdote of what we think about one individual man to then exist as a portrait for a generalization.
Okay, I get what he's saying. It's a little bit verbose. I think a better way to say it would be like, even if you think like one particular male leader is a good leader, you're only giving me one example. What we're talking about is broader trends. And one data point doesn't tell us about a broader trend. See how much simpler and quicker it was for me to just get that out?
About all men.
Why did you have to say Hitler?
Because he's obviously...
I love when people are like, oh, well, you can't bring up Hitler as a count. Yes, we can, motherfucker. And the reason that we bring it up is because it demonstrates the position. There's a really good, in terms of like critical thinking, a really good tool that I'll use sometimes, and this extends beyond politics. It goes into mathematics as well. When I'm trying to like theorize about a certain concept, what I'll do sometimes is I'll test the extremes in one direction or other, and then I'll see whether or not that principle still holds up with the extremes. I don't know if there's a term for this. I've always kind of called it to myself extremes testing, but it's good sometimes to pick out an extreme as a way of like definitively making the point that the principle isn't holding up. Because if you pick examples that aren't on the extremes one way or the other, you might like that gray area might obfuscate whether or not the principle holds. But if you can test at the extremes and it doesn't hold up, then like you've shown that the principle doesn't hold up in all circumstances very easily, right away, right?
A bad leader, that's a man.
Yeah, and
Do you agree?
The president of the United States, which is the commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump, is a great leader.
Okay.
And he's a great leader because he won a landslide.
Okay.
And
So
if he could
true.
run again, he would run a landslide again.
Yeah, well,
Do I need to say it? This is just like the argument makes no sense. It's stupid. There's no logic there. Donald Trump is a great leader because I think so. Donald Trump is a great leader because he won an election. I mean, by that logic, they would have to agree that Barack Obama, Joe Biden are great. Gavin Newsom are great leaders because they won elections. Stupid.
well, guess what? He's not. He's a terrible president. His policy sucks. How about this? What's your favorite Trump policy? I mean, a bill passed through Congress, then signed into law.
I'm a former college coach, and not having men and women.
No offense to this lady or anything, but I really do get the sense that she's got a little bit of Joe Biden going on, where I don't think she's like following the conversation in a very like quick way. It seems like she's a little bit behind in the conversation. And Jubilee should kind of know better, you know? You don't want to, like, exploit old people, I guess, so to speak. Like,
I'm sorry, what bill was that?
oh my God, but they're snapping for it. Like, I understand her maybe not really being able to keep up because she's a little bit older. Okay, I get that. But, like, the rest of the Jubilee audience of these, like, young conservatives are snapping along like she made a good point.
Well, I'm sorry, what bill was that? I asked you a very specific
We
question.
got to stop there that you've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Okay.
All right. If you want to debate this claim, please get to the center in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, Tracy.
How are you?
I think I remember you. Were you on my first Surrounded episode?
Maybe.
Well, I'm gonna
Maybe.
pass the mic to you. Tell us why you.
Well,
think
you knew her
you're
name.
Leading the woman. It's worth me like reminding you and maybe everybody else in the room that so far a lot of the people who've come up and sat in that chair have really missed the mark. Like that last lady. She told me that men are better at leading than women because she likes Trump. Okay, let's hear.
A lot of their arguments so far have kind of come down to, like, men are better at leading because I said so. Oh, okay. My bad.
Well, this is why I think you're going to be surprised. I actually agree with you,
And why are you in the chair?
and I respectfully disagree with some of them. Well, I'm just saying some of the points that they were bringing up about a woman being pregnant, and because somebody's can carry a baby, that they're not fit to lead. I mean, it's the same argument where we say men go to work and come home and the woman stays and handles the household and the children. So is that...
You know, and frankly speaking, I don't know if this is just my experience. There's a lot of couples that I've seen where it's very clear that the woman in the relationship is like, has her shit together way more than the guy does. She's like better with the finances. She's paying more attention to, like, you know, making appointments, setting things up, making sure the kids are like taken care of and handling business and everything. Again, I'm not trying to say that like men don't make good leaders, that there aren't good men out there, but like, do these people not experience that dynamic out in the real world to kind of illustrate to them that it's not always the case that the man is going to be the better leader? I can't be the only one that sees that constantly.
not a powerful position. And I also have to, I'm respectfully disagreeing here, and I want you to give me an example. If you can tell me hypothetically of a woman that you think would be a better leader than Trump right now.
So just to clarify, you don't think men are better at leading than women?
No, Dean, because
Perfect.
if I'm in,
I'm
if
really
I'm
happy. I'm really happy that you don't think that.
I just told you, I agree with you, right?
I want you and everybody else in the room to obviously not think that men are better at leading than women.
See, now this lady here, she has the expert high-level secret debate tactic, which is actually to just agree with the premise of the argument that from the other side, but then to just ignore that she's actually conceded the argument and just kind of keep rolling on. Master debater right here. She bypasses the entire concept of debate and, you know, winning or losing on a position. She's outside the boundaries.
But unfortunately, the nature of this Surrounded episode is where we have disagreeers in the hot seat.
Yes, so I'm asking
happy
you.
you're not, though,
So if we're walking down a dark alley, let's say we're on Figueroa or something, I would be the person having to protect you. I mean, everybody's built differently.
So, yeah, I know it's funny. Like, Dean kind of looks a little effeminate, you know, don't get me wrong or anything, but you might actually be surprised because this dude is actually kind of shredded. Look at this guy. Oh, this isn't Dean. You know, is this him? I think this is him, right? Maybe this is a different Dean, but like, This is Dean, right? Like, props to him, by the way. I mean, this takes work to actually do this and everything. But you might be surprised. This is what you call a sleeper build right here. You can't just go off the face card. He's got like a V8 under the hood.
I feel like I would have to be protecting you. I'm taller. I'm sure I weigh more than...
But, and here's the other thing is like, her making that point, like she's trying to just get like a little cheeky dunk on Dean, but she's conceding the argument because she's right here. She's admitting that she thinks that in certain situations, some women are like more leaders than men. I don't agree with her that Dean would need her protection or whatever. I'm just saying from her mentality, she's conceding the argument.
Than you. I mean, you can take as many classes as you want.
Now, there's a way to flip this around in a very like un-PC way, which is she's trying to demasculate him here, he can easily flip that around and go, oh, so you're more masculine. You're a masculine woman, right? Because they're probably not going to like that, right? They don't want to feel like they're mad. They're very much into like traditional femininity and everything. Oh, okay. So what you're telling me is that you're kind of like a man then. You're telling me you're kind of masculine. You're not a very feminine woman, right? Now, I don't like that mentality. I don't like that kind of like way of talking to people. But I am very much of the belief that if you're going to live by the sword, you got to die by the sword. That I think it's fair to have other people choke on their own medicine. So if you're going to come out with like the trying to demasculate men and everything, then I think it's fair play for me to defeminize you.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's true, Dean.
I'm not, listen.
Men and women are.
I'm not going to disrespect your ego the same way you're attempting to insult me, and that's fine.
Well, no.
I wonder when he said that, I wonder if he has the same thought that I did, which is that he could, if he wanted to, kind of flip that around and he decided he's not going to do so. He's going to take the high ground. We need to not take the high ground these days. We need to just kind of like, we need to give them a taste of their own medicine. We need to, I like to think of it as like, I'm going to feed you your own medicine and it's going to be your decision. You're either going to choke on it or you're going to spit it out.
No,
See, I'll be the bigger person here.
No,
Don't, Dean.
Comparison. So
This ain't the time or
depends on where
place.
this conversation is going. If you're looking at body
That's funny,
type, I'm sorry, there are women that are larger
Can
than
you
men.
guys vote her out because she doesn't think that men are better at leading than women?
Tracy, it does sound like you agree on this
Yes.
prompt. So we're going to have you return to your seat and bring in a
One of the problems with like modern politics is that it's not really, we don't really have genuine real debates that are moderated. And because of that, people are able to just kind of lie, make up statistics, filibuster, do things like this where she's basically conceding the argument, but she just keeps talking anyways, and kind of basically distracting away from what the actual crux of the debate was. There's a big difference between something like this versus if you've ever looked at like Cambridge debates where it's structured. It's like an old school debate format. Each person gets like a certain amount of minutes to talk and the moderator makes sure that, people aren't getting into, ad hominem, stuff like that. But yeah, so unfortunately, the debates that we have in public discourse these days has really kind of devolved.
Disagreeer?
Okay.
All right, if you disagree with this claim and you want to be the next debater, please get to the chair in 3, 2, 1.
Hi.
Hello.
Your name's Julia?
Julia Kate. So I want to ask you, inherent in your statement that men are not better leaders than women,
Yeah.
there's the sense that you believe men and women are different, correct?
I think that there's obviously distinctions between men and women, or else we wouldn't have two different words to refer to.
Yes, thank you. I make this point all the time. I'm glad someone actually, seized upon it. Like, the tautology of saying it. Oh, do you think men are men? No fucking shit, motherfucker. That's what the word man means. Man means man. Like, yeah, no shit. Do you think men and women are the same? No. That's why they're two different fucking terms. The question is like, what is a man? What is a woman? What do those things actually mean? Not whether or not those words are literally the same fucking word. They're not synonyms, obviously. Like, by the way, if you don't believe in trans stuff, the idea that I think they think that we think men and women are the same. I don't know. Maybe they are that stupid. But if we actually thought that, then the whole concept of transness wouldn't even make sense. Because if you had someone who's like a trans man or a trans woman, if we thought men and women are the same, it wouldn't matter whether or not a trans person identified as a man or a woman. But clearly it does.
Two
Okay,
different groups.
so what are some of the distinctions?
Well, I mean, there's distinctions in the sense of cultural and social attitudes and behaviors. There's going to be that are, of course, innate to men and women because
So
I
you
don't
don't
think
believe
that
in innate
prescriptive.
distinctions?
I don't think that prescriptive gender norms exist. Now, like from your perspective, that we were to define the genders on the basis of sex, of course, then there's going to be sexual dimorphism and there's going to be differences present within that.
I don't understand. I do not get it. I don't know why no liberals or progressives actually looked into. I don't know why nobody does this. Why doesn't anybody, like, there's information out there on the biological basis for transgender people, but like nobody bothers to look into it. I don't get it. We live in the information era. That shit always just bugs the fucking hell out of me. We live in an era where people have access to information to a degree we've never seen in the entire history of mankind. And people just choose not to look up it's an obvious question. but nobody asks it. Nobody looks
Of course, like,
online
there's
for the
a plethora of
information.
Differences. Listen, I'm not denying that there are differences between men and women, because once
Differences
again,
biologically
if there
differences.
wasn't differences between men and women, well, then we wouldn't have two distinct groups.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we
But
agree on that.
what my claim is I don't think that any of the differences that exist between men and women would amount to being relevant to justify the claim that men are better at leading than women.
Do you
I'll
think
actually
women
ask
are better
you.
at leading than men?
It seems like he was about to go on this wrong, but he brought up an idea to my head, which is that this is a really good opportunity for him to ask, okay, you're saying there's, like, your whole argument hangs on the idea that there's biological distinctions between men and women. Okay. I want you to tell me the specific biological mechanism in your mind that causes women to be worse leaders than men. Go ahead. I don't think any of them would actually have an answer to that question.
No, I actually think that gender is completely irrelevant to the
Interchangeable is
prospects
what you're saying.
of if somebody is better at leading than the other person. I ultimately think that there's going to be no determinative ability, regardless if we're making the claim that men are better at leading than women or women are better at leading than men, to ever make that
Okay,
prescriptive
so what
claim.
I'm hearing is that men and women are essentially interchangeable in your mind.
Well, in my mind, once again, I just don't
Just
believe
yes
in
or no?
prescriptive gender norms.
Okay,
And I
got
think
you.
that ultimately one's gender is irrelevant
can
to
I
their
ask you a
leadership
question?
capabilities. If you can tell me what are the relevant differences between men and women
Yes.
that make men better at leading than women?
Yes, we can go back to the hunter and gatherers when men were the ones going out to hunt and women were the ones staying with the children and gathering fruits and nuts. Men are the people that go towards risk, that go towards provision, naturally. Why is it that in today's, even our influencer community, we have more women that are drawn towards beauty, makeup, things like family, schooling, and men are more drawn towards traditionally masculine things? It's innate in every culture that you see this trend. We are hormonally.
If these things were innate, then we wouldn't even have the arguments that we're having today. If these things were innate, like conservatives wouldn't have issues with like transgender people because they just wouldn't exist. But they do. Conservatives have an issue because these things aren't innate. There's a lot more wiggle room. There's a lot more gray area than the story that she tells. And this whole like men are better leaders because they did the hunting while women did the gathering. Does that actually mean they're better leaders though? Is a person who hunts are they a better leader because they hunt? I feel like leading is a different skill set, and that's not to say that someone who is a hunter can't be a good leader, but it's just an entirely different skill set. I mean, I might flip it around and just to play devil's advocate, if women are the ones that are staying in the village more often than the men who are going out and hunting, doesn't that mean that women were the ones that had to hold it down and lead the tribe while the men were out there doing the hunting, right?
Different. That's been mentioned throughout this place. You as a man do not know what it's like to have a cycle, to have a period, to have your hormones go up and down.
Yeah.
That is insanely significant for a woman's ability to lead. And
here's another like counter argument to this topic too, which is that with modern medicine, things like IUDs, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a woman. I believe at least some of the people in my chat are women. It's my understanding that IUDs really blunt that cycle that women, typically go through. So in a modern context, if you're hanging your hat on the idea that, women can't be good leaders because they have, cycles related to like ovulation and whatnot, the fact that a lot of modern women are on IUDs and it blunts that, doesn't that kind of nullify that position that you have?
women will complain about being scared to walk on the streets at night, and yet they'll elect the same politicians that release the criminals on the street.
Do you think that women should lose the right to vote?
I think that I'm not talking about that today.
You just gotta get a quick yes or no, then go
I
back to the
think that
topic.
we need strong alpha males like Donald J. Trump, Spencer Pratt, and our loved...
Donald Trump is alpha male. Who's this Spencer Pratt person everybody's talking about now? Spencer Pratt. American TV personality? Oh, is this from, what's that show? Laguna, whatever the hell it's called, right? Am I thinking of the right thing? Malibu? I don't know. The Hills? This guy, I think he recently entered politics, right? Now he's an alpha male? Is it just like, all of a sudden he's an alpha male now because he shares her politics? Like, where did this talking point come from? This seems like it came out of nowhere.
Charlie Kirk, who will
Jesus.
have secure borders, who will not let criminals
Did you
on the
just
street.
unironically say strong alpha males?
Strong alpha males, yeah.
Bro, get a grip. Stand up.
You,
Listen.
bro, get a grip. You're a man. Do you want to mansplain to me?
Well, I mean, actually, you just said that men are better at leading than women,
I
so you
do.
should listen to every word.
There
that
you
I'm
go.
saying.
There you go, Dean.
Perspective, Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think that men are the strong alpha
Use their own logic against them.
males and women are the emotional followers, why
I
won't you
think-
follow my lead and listen to what I have to say?
First off,
I'd be an asshole. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'd be sitting there just like mocking them the entire time, like, excuse me, you're too emotional for this argument, honey. Like, chill out. Calm down. Your cortisol's too high right now. I think you're on your cycle right now. You said that yourself, right? You know, I know that's a little bit rude and everything, but I would be an asshole about it. You know?
Because
sir,
you don't believe what
that
you
is
say.
a straw man. I believe that male and female are created equal in the image of God. We each have the same dignity and the same value. We have the same brain, the same rationality.
But you don't think that you have the same brain. If you believe that, you wouldn't think that, you know, men make better leaders than women. Like, you don't actually believe that's incoherent.
But we have different and distinct roles.
Okay.
Why is it that
But again, like I mentioned this earlier, it all basically comes down to like, this is a cultural thing. This is like the real root of their belief in this whole thing, which is that they're culturally raised to believe that men are at the top of the hierarchy. That's really what it is. And everything else is just kind of backfilling that position with, you know, what they think are logical arguments to support it. But at the end of the day, that is really the reason why they believe this and why they'll never move off of it. They think their religion mandates that they believe this thing. And so if you have, like, all of the logic in the world will not move them off of this position because they believe, like, the position that they hold on this determines whether or not they're going to go to heaven or hell. There's no earthly argument or anything that's going to sway them one way or the other. Their beliefs are existential.
women can get pregnant? Only females can get pregnant.
Well, of course, that would boil down to the physical biology.
Physical biology.
Because
Isn't that innate that women are more geared towards child rearing and child raising than men are?
So once again, the way that we started this conversation.
I don't know if that's true or not. Like, I genuinely don't know, but I just want to point out there's a difference between women or females, I should say, are inherently, like, predisposed to bearing children. Like, no shit, right? Women have, or females have a womb, right? No shit. But there's a difference between having children versus being able to raise children. There's a lot of people who have children, are able to have children, no problem. But are they actually able to raise children? Are they actually good at taking care of their children? That's a different story.
Was by me agreeing that there are going to be differences between men and women.
Exactly.
You just simply
So men
Can
are
I
better
finish?
leaders.
I would love if I could finish. You can't say because there's differences between two things that thereby innately one of the two things is going to be better at leading than the other. Like, I think that's ridiculous. Listen, once again.
You didn't really make a good point there. It didn't really. It was a bit of a non sequitur itself.
My claim is that the differences that do exist between men and women ultimately don't amount to justifying the claim that men are better at leading than women. Let me.
What I think Dean probably should have done in this debate in preparation for it was probably think of like a handful of examples of like bad male leaders and then really good female leaders from history. He brought up Hitler before. That's a good example, but he probably needs like some examples of really good female leaders through history. So like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, would be like some really good examples of female leaders in history. Oh, you know what? I guess they're right? No, but I don't know. For me personally, I've always looked up to Eleanor Roosevelt. I'm trying to think of like female leaders that would be not just me personally think that they're good female leaders, but are like broadly recognized as good female leaders. I'm trying to think, like, for example, for a Christian audience, would they think, like, if you brought up Mother Teresa, would they consider that to be a good female leader? Would that be something that most people would agree on?